This is the time to book your place, a magical place inside of the 9. The 9 who will place themselves as the 9 best in this league. The 9 who will place themselves as challengers for the title. This is the final stop when it comes to how this season will run in terms of a regular season. The showdown comes into fruition 1 week from now. To book your place, you've got to be inside that magical top 9. The only place you can do this is here on Forever Sim Racing. This is Lime Rock Park. This is the British Sim Racers TCR Sunday Cup. And it is live, and it is going to be uninterrupted for racing action. It's Jake Sperry, joined with Caitlin Penny here in the commentary booth, as well as Marco Barbanera back on cameras for us. It's back to the good old team once more. And well, before we go any further, big shout outs have to go, of course, to Forcex Designs, who are our graphic sponsors for these productions that you are watching at the moment, as well as action that has gone on. The music that you have heard is from Violet. You can catch her brand new album, Queen of Misfits, on Bandcamp and on Spotify as well. Make sure you check out everything that she is doing at the moment. But Caitlin, qualifying currently underway. Every position in qualifying so vital. A maximum of 22 points available for drivers in this qualifying session. 30 minutes uninterrupted qualifications, and more importantly than that, a short track means that gaining some space to get some position to do laps is going to be tough.
Yeah, and it's now or never for these drivers. As you said, we've got so many drivers in contention for the 9, as you say. Of course, Dane, Stevens, McNally, Carstensen, Jackalette, Dima, Hedgecock, Janowski, they're all around that kind of buffer. And we're waiting to see who will come out on top. But as you say, very short track here at Lime Rock, only 53.9 seconds if you do it absolutely right. And that means it's going to be so tough to find that track position. I've just seen Johnny Brandon going to the top with Nicole Foggy, so the XV racers, again, right up the head of the field, and actually quite a long way ahead of anyone else at this point in time. As I say that, Chris Danes goes to the top, 53.5. That's the time to beat now by over a tenth of a second. Goodness me.
This is how the track evolves as it goes. Current weather conditions, it's mostly cloudy. It's 19 degrees ambient. On track is just 23 degrees. It's a cold track. This will mean that the track will be very much evolving as this 30-minute session goes on. Drivers will be able to find quicker and quicker lap times. Winds lazily coming in at 3 kilometers an hour from the north means that there's not going to be very much worries as we are 8:45 in sim time here from Lakeville, Connecticut, United States of America. But more importantly than that at the moment is going to be how these championships stack. So first and foremost, let's take our look at the Drivers' Championship, the Excite Energy Championship points up on your screen. Nicole Foggy holds the lead. It's 170 points at the moment, and a regular season for him will be crowned complete if he can just find himself a handful more points. He will be the best driver over the course of the regular season. XV Racer 1, 2, and 3, no Dan Brown. He's going to be out for the next 2 rounds, if not the rest of the season. That could be a shame there. Cedric Nebelchik and Robin Haase will not take their places as confirmed by Team Rennsport Online, but they will still effectively get a ticket into the 9, which makes life difficult for the likes of Adam McNally, Carl Jackalette, Lee Dima, and Adam Hedgecock, with Niels Carstensen not here at the moment. Not forgetting, of course, Julian Janowski. Those 4 or 5 drivers looking at 9th place are split just by 47 points. That's the big margin, Caitlin, that everyone looks at. 47 points, splitting 5 drivers who only get 1 position overall. This is going to be a big fight for everyone going through as times continue to tumble. 1, 2, 3 at the moment for XV Racer.
Yeah, but there's so many points in offer. It's not like other championships where you only get points for the race. We have 22 on offer just for this qualifying session, and that's going the way of Nicole Foggy as it stands. That's 22 for the pole sitter, but there's even more points available for the drivers from 2nd to 20th positions. You've got 20 for 2nd place, 18 for 3rd, 17 for 4th, etc., etc. And Foggy currently has that 53.182, followed by Johnny Brandon just over a tenth of a second back. But because it's such a short track, and because we have 3 races coming up today, which also have plenty of points on offer, 80 for a win in each, 75 for second, 70 for third, etc., it means that it's going to be extremely unpredictable. And I'm expecting lap traffic to come into play, especially if there's an excess of incidents, which I expect, unfortunately, that there will be. It's a difficult circuit. There isn't much room for passing, and it's quite narrow in places as well. So drivers are really going to be going for it more aggressive than usual, and especially because it's this late in the championship and it means so much to them at this point in time.
It certainly does mean a lot, as does the Dragon Internet Teams Championship at the moment. X3 Racer in complete control, over 1,000 points in terms of advantage, nearly 1,500. It is expected that Ren Sport Online will see their second position at the moment to excite energy at the end of this round of the championship. But keep an eye out on the fight for 5th and 6th. Boosthead Motorsports, BritTech SimSport, and Momo all together split by about 200 points overall. That's going to be a very big battle to keep an eye out on, because we've seen how Boosthead have been the consistent ones, but BritTech surely have the pace here today. Chris Dane's currently 4th position as a leading BritTech driver, but keep an eye on Momo too. Don't count them out of the mix, because Peter Van Gool is currently in 5th. Adam Hedgecock just moving up into 7th. This is a big race.
Absolutely huge, and not as close as I thought it would be up the front of the field just yet. Although again, I'm expecting the times to tumble towards the end of the sessions. Foggy going even quicker that last time around, 53.061. He got a good slipstream from Johnny Brandon, and that just shows you how effective that is. Now they've swapped places on track, and I expect it's going to be the job of Foggy to give Brandon a slipstream now, so Brandon can build up even more of a buffer. Steve LaValle, who came into this championship rather late, but has been getting quicker ever since he has joined, is currently in 3rd position, doing a great job there. Peter Van Gool, who's really impressed me the last couple of races, is in 5th, just behind Chris Danes in 4th. And Julian Janowski, one of the drivers fighting for that 9th position, is just ahead to, oh, never mind, he's been passed by Adam McNally. So McNally there crosses the line and goes even quicker, just a couple of hundredths of a second off Peter Van Gool as it stands.
Well,
And
crucially,
they are just ahead of Adam Hedgecock.
they all certainly are, and sorry to cut your thunder off there a little bit,
That's okay.
but you've got Adam McNally, who is 6th position, the gatekeeper to the 9, finds himself ahead of all of his rivals in qualifying, so will be extending his, at minimum, 14-point championship lead, which is currently going to be over one particular driver indeed, and that driver, of course, is Carl Jacquelet, who is not having a good qualifying in comparison. He finds himself down in 16th position compared to his rivals, so Jacquelet is going to need the reverse grid races to come back into his favour if he wants anything to work out for him. Amateur category championship, though, this is a very underrated battle. Andy Maxwell had a storming run at Monza 1 week ago, puts him firmly at the top of the standings by a full 58 points, which sounds a lot in amateur category championship meanings. But 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Carl Hardy, Charles Kellyman, and Sean Gardner all split by 2 points overall. That is what you call a close chasing pack.
You mentioned Carl Hardy, and he's actually not set a time yet in this qualifying session, so I don't expect that he will. Maybe he has a penalty or something, so he is still sitting in the pit. I've also just noticed another driver who's not setting a qualifying lap is a brand new driver in this league, and I'm not sure whether he's raced with us before, or whether he is... Okay, well, returning driver here, and that's Mikey Key. I didn't know I had a Kiki, but it's not yours, so it must be Mikey Key, and he is currently in, he's in car 69, still sitting in the pit lane, and will likely have to line up 28th on the grid overall. But in front of them, the qualifying session continues on, and I've just noticed someone changing in the top 15. I think that was Scott Malcolm making a jump up to P13.
And that's huge for Scott Malcolm, because he is 5th at the moment in the amateur category standings. He will want to get as many points as possible, but Charles Kellyman is ahead of him in 12th place. So Charles having a very strong qualifying, ahead of drivers like Carl Jacquelet, Lane O'Connor, Dan Blake, who had a race victory this season for year 1. These are some big times from those two, just behind the likes of Kip Stevens in 11th position, got his first podium of the season last time out at at Monza, which means here at Lime Rock Park, he is going to be primed and ready, looking for every single position and point to go his way. Currently qualifying is almost half distance at the moment, and every driver is hoping to find just a little bit more magic, try and push forward and to gain that extra little bit of time. How will teams come into this? How will team allegiances decide to change things as Andy Maxwell, your amateur category leader, currently is scored in only 21st position at the moment? It's not bad with 6 drivers behind, one of them his rival Sean Gardner, and this is going to be the big issue for him. Andy Maxwell, though, knows he is losing quite a fair amount of points, at least 10 in this qualifying, as things stands to his rivals.
And another thing, of course, is that because this track is so short, it does mean that you end up accidentally helping someone else by giving them a slipstream down the straight. There's so many cars packed into such little track space that a lot of these drivers look as if they're trying to help each other, look as if they're slipstreaming each other down the straights, whereas actually it's just purely coincidental due to track positioning and where they've come out of the pits and where they've ended up after slowing down on their outlaps. So in the end, you do end up getting a good drag from the car in front, wherever you are and however many teammates you have. Of course, it does help if your friend, I suppose, is being cooperative. Although even if they're not, you can often benefit anyway from having someone in front of you. Of course, it's not like a single seater where you end up getting all sorts of turbulent air thrown in your face, or a prototype or something like that. And usually we've seen the slipstream helping cars rather than hindering them. In the grand scheme of things, won't be so much of an effect at Lime Rock Park because the straight is so short, but admittedly in the race it may come into more of an effect because you do encounter that straight so many times with it being so short.
And there are other drivers as well who are looking at more than just victories, more than just points. They are thinking about these bonus points as well. And this is something in the back of the mind of Johnny Brandon, who I had an opportunity to speak with about an hour or so ago before the start of this broadcast. And Johnny Brandon knows that he's got to come up with a good plan. He said it may involve a little bit of luck, but he knows he's just got to try and keep the points away from one Nicole Foggy. His deficit at the moment in terms of showdown points is 12, and this is important because those showdown points mean the world in terms of how this race is going to be run. If Johnny Brandon can pick up victories, he will take 2 points away from Nicole Foggy. If he can find himself a pole position, that's more points away from Nicole Foggy. What he knows is that that gap will extend and he'll make his life a little bit harder when it comes to the showdown, which currently, as scheduled, is the next round at Circuit Club Park Zandvoort. This is going to be a really difficult challenge for Johnny Brandon to try and reel this in. The good news is for him, it's not 170 points he needs to reel in at this point in time.
In terms of the point standings, I was looking at those before the race started. Of course, as you mentioned previously, it's a little bit thrown off by the fact that Team RSO drivers aren't here, so that's more points on offer for the other cars around them. But still, it's XV Racer locking out the top 3 spots with Foggy, Brandon, and Brown. And the top Excite Energy. Whoa.
That's Carl Jacquelet going up to 11th place and being jumped by James Leggett up into 11th. So now the times are coming in with the cloud cover starting to hit this Lakeville, Connecticut track. But just like that, Carl Jacquelet announces himself and says, I can stop the bleeding in terms of losing some championship points to McNally.
Indeed, yeah, wonderfully done. I was going to say the top non-XV Racer driver is Ashley Beard, currently 4th place in the championship and 9th in qualifying so far. Not bad from Beard. I think he'd want to get a bit higher, although the races do tend to be his forte if he can keep out of trouble. And I'm looking also at Chris Daines. I know it doesn't matter that much, although I expect he's going to jump ahead of the RSO drivers on points today. Not that that's going to make much of a difference, seeing as the points will get equalized as we go into the 9 anyway. But whatever the case, that's how it stands at the minute. And still, it looks to be the XV Racer drivers on top. Foggy leading from Brandon, and they are 0.2 of a second ahead of Steve LaValle as it stands. We have now just 12 minutes left in this qualifying session. Someone else just made a jump up there, I think.
Yes, it's Rich Warmingham who's gone up into 5th place in qualifying on a 53.5. That's a big jump in terms of improvements, and the 714 who got a victory in race 3 at Monza knows that there is pace in the XV Racer camp as they know 4 vehicles inside the top 5 once again. They will be very, very tough to go out there and beat. Let's see how that one plays out in the long haul of this. I've just caught James Leggett, who's just had a massive incident up the hill, heading through the right-hander uphill. It's very difficult. There's a curb on the exit, but he misses his apex, clips the wall on the outside. 1 barrel roll, 2 barrel roll, and he looks like James Bond because he has 4, he has 5, he has 6, and effectively it's 6.5 before he can get it towed back to pit road.
Yeah, although once you do get it towed back to pit road, of course, because this is a simulator, you don't have to repair the car, and as a result, you can get it out again in qualifying. You do lose a bit of time towing it. It tends to be about a minute or so, although you, of course, actually, I'm not sure. That's in the race. Do you lose less time than that in qualifying?
You still have to lose a little bit of time, reset the car, get back out again, and you have to get the outlap going and the tyres up to temperature. The difference
Very
between
true.
qualifying and race, in qualifying, you've got infinite resets. If you do it in the race, you have a tow time, which is how much time it takes to get you back to track, and that iRacing implemented system makes all the world of difference when it comes to racing like this. Your top 10 then on your screen. Foggy currently ahead of Johnny Brandon, Steve Lavallee in third. Chris Danes is the best of the rest in fourth, with Rich Warmingham fifth. Then it's Peter Van Gool, Julian Janowski, Adam McNally, Adam Hedgecock in ninth. Ashley Beard rounding out the top 10. Worth noting this, Janowski has moved up into 7th position now, and that means that he will gain 1 extra point on Adam McNally in terms of his challenge. It will bring his gap in the championship down to just 46.
I want to follow a car around a lap to see exactly what this Lime Rock Park circuit is like today. Let's have a look at Foggy and Brandon because they're going onto another one now down the straight, which was named recently, although I can't remember exactly what it was named. Through turn 1, this is Big Bend, which also counts as turn 2 since it tightens up on the exit, and that is technically a separate corner. Turn 3 is the left-hander, which counts as the first part of the S's leading into the right-hander, which is turn 4. I'm not entirely sure why it's called the S's. They're not really S's at all, but whatever the case. Up past there's a slight kink in the road there, although that is known as the no-name straight before you head uphill past the corner called the uphill, and then West Bend, which is on the west of the circuit, before the downhill. These are very creatively named corners. I'm loving this. Whatever the case, through turn 7, the downhill, and we're already done. That's how quick a lap is here, just 53 seconds. And the lap time there, oh, it's an improvement from Johnny Brandon. It's a 53. It's a 53.052. Johnny Brandon goes to provisional pole with that.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Johnny Brandon finds the time. That will hurt the championship points. And it's not just he's found the time, he's found it by fractions. And those fractions are 9,000ths of a second. So the number 9 means everything. It's the 9th meeting of the season. You've got to get into the 9 to try and make your way towards the championship. This has been fantastic in terms of qualifying by currently Johnny Brandon, second in the championship in terms of regular season point coming into this. We will see how everything changes the longer that this goes on, but keep an eye out on drivers who can make changes, who can make improvements up through the field. Haven't talked much about the gentleman, John Roberts, who goes spread sideways, hits his teammate through turn 1, gives a hip check to Adam Hedgecock, who will not be best pleased with that as Boost Ted Motorsports make their tradition of hitting other drivers a reality. John Roberts currently in 18th position right now, and I have to say 18th place, he's putting himself nicely in the mid to late pack here and has an opportunity to gain a couple places off the start.
In the pit store, of course, it does take the tyres a little while to get up to temperature on these Audi RS3s. So if he's going to go for another one, he'll want to get out on time. But whatever the case, currently down in 18th position. I've been looking throughout the top 15. We've had a real cycle of drivers from 7th back to 12th. Janowski, McNally, Hedgecock, Beard, Stevens, and Leggett currently hold those positions, but they've been changing places plenty of times. There were a couple of swaps earlier, and I'm expecting other drivers to get involved in that towards the end of the session, as well as the tyres warm up. Charles Kellyman's currently getting a good tow from the car in front there, who's now getting out of the way of him. So I'm wondering whether this will be an improvement from Charles Kellyman, who didn't set a representative lap in practice, but probably has been practicing on and off all week. the final corner for him. Not using quite as much of the track as he could do, but still that looks to be good. And no improvement from Kellyman this time around. I'm quite surprised by that because I was watching that lap the whole way through and it was looking promising.
It was looking promising, but ultimately the tyre's not up to temperature just yet. Worth talking about this one as well, though, Caitlin. The fact of the matter is, this track is a free track on the iRacing service. This is one of the first tracks that you race on the iRacing service when it
Very
comes to the
true.
rookie Mazdas. This is a track which every driver in their DNA has farmed, has worked on, time in, time out. They will know this track all too well. Every quirk, every kink. It's now about who masters it. This is probably the only track this season, Caitlin, where you can say that pure pace is the biggest indicator at this track more than any other.
It was it was actually the first race track that I ever tested on iRacing, as it would have been for a lot of these people, maybe even most. But anyway, yeah, I was saying last time out that pure pace is really going to matter here, as well as car control, because it's so tight, because there's really not that much room for overtaking. Racecraft's still going to be important, of course, although not as important as at Monza last time out, where it was side by side the entire way, and it was all about positioning yourself in relation to the battle. This is all about positioning yourself in relation to where the track's going, and the drivers who know this track better than others will definitely have a real advantage here, as opposed to Monza last time out.
That is very, very true. Keep an eye out on those who are looking to try and make the improvements. Top two out there trying to work on who is going to be the person to get pole position. Adam Hedgecock looking to set up some times, as is Ashley Beard, back now down into 10th position overall here in qualifying. Dan Blake out there on the road, but a lot of drivers sitting and waiting, especially two cars, Steve Lavalley and Lane O'Connor, who are trying to catch the end of the train here when it comes to teammates and try and get a little bit of help in terms of how this goes. So Lane O'Connor will get onto the back of Foggy and also Johnny Brandon and try and chase up as quickly as possible to get as much time as he can. Every driver here with 4 minutes to go needs to be on track, or those tyres will not be up to temperature for the amazing lap that they hope to get.
The late stage of the qualifying session are the most important, because this is when you start to see the fastest times. This is when the track is at its greenest. Well, not greenest actually, because green tends to mean slick. This is when the track is at its grippiest, and also when the drivers are the most fired up. They've had the whole practice and the first 26 minutes of this session to get up to speed, and now of course they know that it matters more than ever before, so they'll probably be making more mistakes. And as I say that, I see Dan Blake having an off. They'll probably be making more mistakes here, but if they don't make a mistake, if they manage to get their lap hooked up, it's going to be a real flyer. So we'll see if anyone can get. First of all, we'll see if anyone can get within 4/10 of a second of the top two. Steve Lavalley is just within 4/10 of a second, but really not by much. And secondly, we'll see if anyone can change their positions further down the order. I'm expecting a bit of a shuffle in the late stages.
We will certainly see drivers like Lee Deemer, who has an outside shot to get into the 9. He is the 254 car. He's down in 23rd position. This is someone who needs to find some improvements. He's got no draft help, and that lap didn't count either, so that's not going to be useful for him with just 3 minutes to go. Now 2.5 here in qualifying. Anyone else on track now needs to find what they need. Nicole Foggy is still dragging Johnny Brandon around, though. This is the big hurt, though. Johnny Brandon may be very entitled with also showdown points on the line to sit back, Caitlin, to say, I don't want to give you any tow. I don't want to give you any advantage. You go work on it yourself. I hold the cards at the moment in qualifying and not you.
So as we continue, you see drivers weaving down the straight, trying to get their tires up to temperature before going for one final run. Of course, it's not so much one out lap followed by a flying lap like you'd see in, for example, Formula One, because single seaters can get their tires up to temperature so much quicker than these touring cars can. And there's a real sweet spot with the tires here that we've spoken about before, where if you don't get them up to temperature on time, they will take a very, very long time. And also, if you get them up to temperature too quickly, they can overheat relatively quickly as well, because front-wheel drive cars, yeah, you've got a lot of pressure going through the front wheels, and especially with oversteer and wheel spin, they can really start to melt. So they get up to speed slowly, then they go off quickly, and in that that tiny little buffer, that's when you need to set your lap. Someone just jumped up the order there in the top 10.
It was Kip Stevens who moves up to 9th on a 53.714. The 55 machine finds the time with a minute to go and has another lap to go out there and be aggressive. And more importantly, he did so without draft as well. Nicole Foggy has got behind Johnny Brandon, so Brandon will have to give the toe to Foggy over the course of this lap, and this will be their final opportunity. They will not get another one as their timer will expire when it comes to this. 54.1 from Johnny Brandon, 53.7 from Nicole Foggy. Not good enough at the moment, needs to be more as drivers look to see who will be the last over the line. Andy Maxwell will be comfortable. Kip Stevens gearing up for one more lap. Is he trying to get onto the back of the train? Steve Lavallee and co. There, Rich Warmingham, Lane O'Connor trying to warm up the tyres. Scott Malcolm trying to gain advantage on the back of it. The likes of Charles Kellyman there for the amateur category championship as well. 10 seconds left on the clock, and all of those drivers will get over the line, as will one other driver who was on the back of that, and that's Julian Janowski. 1 second remains. Timer expires. Did it expire on Lee Deemer as he goes through into turn 1? He did a 54.3. Not good enough. Runs wide. He will not find improvements. McNally, 8th position only for him. He did not get over the line quick enough. Over the line goes Nico Foggy. Does not set a lap time. So Johnny Brandon, as things stands, will get pole. Steve Cooley will not find improvements at the uphill. Is one Kip Stevens leading the train behind. Scott Malcolm looking for improvements, as is Charles Kellyman. Julian Janowski needs to find a little bit more. Kellyman trying to give a good run for the optical car. Dean Timms as well in 20th, looking for something, and Janowski has to lift and abandon his lap. He got too close to the back of Charles Kellyman, who's going for a flyer. Are there any improvements? Kip Stevens does not find his improvement. Were there anything to go on? Scott Malcolm did a 54.5, which was not good enough for him. Looking at Kellyman over the line, 54.5, also not good enough either. Everyone across the line, this is how the grid will look. So Johnny Brandon picks up maximum points in qualifying, a pole position ahead of Nico Foggy, his teammate and title leader at the moment. Steve Lavallee is in 3rd position with Chris Daines in 4th and Rich Warmingham rounding out the top 5. Peter Van Gool joins Warmingham on the 3rd row with Julian Janowski in 7th and the gatekeeper to the 9, Adam McNally in 8th place. Kip Stevens will start this one 9th with Adam Hedgecock in 10th.
11th place at the end of all of that went to Ashley Beard, followed by Dan Blake, then James Leggett, followed by one of the 9 contenders, Carl Jacquelet. A little bit of an outside shot, but with the RSO cars dropping down the order, especially Nils Carstensen, he could absolutely still get involved. Charles Kellyman is P15, followed by Scott Malcolm, then Lane O'Connor, John Roberts, David Ayres, and Dean Timms.
21st is Daniel James with Andy Maxwell in 22nd, the leader of the amateur category championship. Lee Deemer, poor qualifying from him, 23rd only. Martin Sampson, 24th. Then it's Sean Gardner and Steve Cooley. Michael Bingham, last driver to set times in 27th. Carl Hardy and Mikey Key did not set times when it came to qualifying. Hardy on the grid there as part of the Result Clothing team. He will wait at the back and hope that his time will improve himself forward in this field. But this is going to be a very, very tough race for drivers. This is going to be tough because you don't want to be on the outside at this track. It is 6 corners right, 1 corner left. That makes life very difficult for overtaking to happen, and every driver knows you have to be on the inside at Lime Rock if you are to gain the position that you so desperately want. Every driver knows as well that these 17 laps are going to be big, and at points on this circuit, it does feel like it has a street circuit vibe as you're leading to get up onto the starting grid. Almost everyone ready then to get themselves going, just waiting for Andy Maxwell to get on the grid, which he does at the moment. So This is going to be a big, big challenge for these drivers. Who will book their place in the 9? Only 3 rounds of racing with 2 reverse grids will make sure that happens. And the start is now. And it looked like it was going to be good for Lavalley, but he bogs down in the second phase of acceleration already. Kip Stevens finds his way through, trying to skip past Julian Janowski as they go into turns 1 and 2 for the very first time. It's 3 wide in the middle of the pack. Hedgecock on the outside. Janowski gets turned, and suddenly 2 rivals escape to the grass with one Mr. Adam McNally clearing away as they go through an incident already through turn 2, and just like that, the 9 now look a little bit more secure.
Yeah, another driver who went round at the back was Lee Diemer. He did make it to the barrier after contact with another driver, and I was trying to look through the field to see who it was, but I couldn't quite spot it. Whatever the case, Diemer in trouble, as is Janowski. The rest of the field streaming over the crest of the hill and towards the downhill, and we will be able to see what the full order is at the end of this lap. Johnny Brandon leading.
Johnny Brandon, yes, leading by a fair margin as Adam McNally finds his way through on Carl Jacquelet, and that's crucial because those are the 2 who are closest in the championship fight at the moment. McNally dropped 1 position off the start. He had a shocker. It was Ashley Beard who was there skipping away, and McNally gets sideways through turn 1. He hates cold tyres on the opening laps, and suddenly Jacquelet gets a freebie as they go through. There's contact in the background, 2 more get dumped to the outside. One is Charles Kellyman, who had a very good qualifying. The other, I believe, is going to be Dean Timms. It is, fighting with Sean Gardner, still as they head through the left-hander. But through all of this, it is packs at the moment. Foggy and Brandon at the front. Then it's Danes, Warmingham and Lavalley, followed by Van Gool and Ashley Beard, 6th and 7th. This is how it looks. It's 3 packs and Noah's Ark battles as they go for another lap.
More instant updates. We've, the incident at the start was actually caused by Carl Hardy getting together with Lee Diemer, so Hardy a little bit affected in that as well. Also, Mikey Key did not start the race, so we've only got 21 drivers in this. Janowski appears to be our first retirement. He's definitely in the pits, maybe just having some instant repairs as we complete another lap. And someone's getting very, very sideways. I think it's Dan Blake. Yeah, he's just kept it within the lines there, but someone else hasn't. Someone else has run right to the outside. Not James Leggett. Someone else. James Leggett, yeah.
And it was contact with Carl Jacquelet, and this is big because this might just affect Adam Hedgecock, who may want to try and protest every result, or get James Leggett to protest to get everything possible. But behind that, McNally on his own went full spread eagle sideways. Mark Scaife will be absolutely loving that right out sideways moment as they went through. But ultimately, every battle now is suddenly starting to heat up. This is a case of one who makes the least mistakes. Carl Jacquelet has the toughest job in the world at the moment. He's got to keep behind Adam McNally, who gets a great run and coming down the downhill and in towards turn number 1 once again. McNally has a full car alongside, and I think Jacquelet may just have to say, yeah, no, that's yours.
Not sure many of these drivers are going to be getting bonus points for a completely clean race with 0 incident points, but whatever the case, the race continues. Just seen a move further down the order. I think it was Kip Stevens pulling a move on there's definitely been a change between someone. Meanwhile, Bingham and Timms are side by side, and Bingham's got that place. That'll be for 20th position. So down the bottom end of the points paying positions, points go down to P20 in all of this. Still up the front, very much. Oh no, Peter Van Gool running over the grass almost, and we've got Ashley Beard alongside him. He'll be on the right-hand side, heading down towards turn 1, and that looks like it's going to be a change. He's braking later, and he'll have the inside line, and that big bend, if someone else gets the inside on you, you're not going to keep it.
Well, it's going to take a brave man to hold around the outside, but Ashley Beard picks up another one, moves +5 for the day, moves up into 6th place, and now can think about Warmingham, Lavalley and Danes, but that is going to be a tough chase. They are already almost 3 seconds down the road in comparison. McNally finding his gap that he needs at the moment in 8th place, with Carl Jacquelet currently in 9th, holding a huge train of vehicles. It goes all the way back to 19th with Sean Gardner, and at the moment Carl Jacquelet is very much the blockade in this field. His first challenge, Lane O'Connor, could ask for a bit of help from Dan Blake, but Lane O'Connor is the big issue that he is looking at the moment as the front drivers continue to have themselves in a place. Johnny Brandon, his gap now 0.4 of a second at the front of the field from Nicole Foggy. Foggy in no position to go out there and attack just yet.
5 minutes of the race over already, and still, as you say, it's the XV Racer guys getting away at the front. Brandon followed by Foggy, and then there's a 3-second gap already back to Danes and Lavalley, who are fighting over that third position. Rich Warmingham was fourth in the early stages. He's dropped back a position, so I think Steve Lavalley has gained that back.
Ooh.
And then it's you seen something?
Yeah, I'm seeing Lane O'Connor looking really aggressive on the back of Carl Jacquelet. He looked at the right on the no-name straight. He looked at the left on the no-name straight. And he found nothing at all as he came up through. Kip Stevens as well behind, looking to attack Charles Kellyman. Both of whom running wide a little bit through the West Bend, missing the apex as they head on the downhill once again. And it's all about who can pick up the magical run. I think it's David Ayers who's got the best of the lot. He's trying to get through on Scott Malcolm. This for 13th position on the road. On the brakes they go, and there is an inside line given as Ayers continues to try and get there, but he's going to run out of opportunities then and drops the back of the train of John Roberts.
Yeah, that's a big chain of cars there, and if you go wide, if you make a mistake, or if you get forced wide, in fact, you just start dropping like a stone. Especially if you touch the grass or you go off onto the grass, and people already discovering that in the worst way. But anyway, as they continue a lap, the order will update itself, and we'll see exactly who's dropped to where. We've still got cars battling all the way through the field. Remember that points go down into 20th position, as I was saying before. So currently that position held by Michael Bingham, who's climbed 7 places from the start. But up ahead of him, we've got fighting cars. Kip Stevens pulling a move on. Is that David Ayres? Yeah, he's up to the inside. This is for 14th position, and that is nicely done from Kip Stevens so far. Keeps it on the inside, and Ayres has to yield.
Well, that might be the case, Caitlin, for qualifying, but for the race, there's a lot more points for those a lot further down, and those margins are going to be huge.
Very true.
Race lead battle is going to be on once again. Nico Foggy has taken a couple of laps to get the engine cooled down and then start going and attacking again, and he's got a good run here, but there is traffic in front, and it is the amateur category leader, Andy Maxwell, who is not having a good race, down in 27th position. Janowski is classed as a lap down in 28th, so his challenge may just be over unless he gets some good reverse grids. Battle for third on. Lavalley takes a big wide line, but unmoved is Chris Danes, who will not find himself overtaken in these stages here in the mid part of this race. Lap 9 of 17 here in this race, and still nothing doing for the time being. No changes of position, but still Carl Jacquelet doing well. So well, in fact, he's actually closing the gap back down here to Adam McNally, 2/10.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. Points actually go down to 40th position, and since we've only had 28 starters in this race, that means that everyone is guaranteed to score points. I'm not sure if you get points if you DNF, if you don't see the checkered flag.
You go,
I'm not sure.
50% rule.
You don't. Okay, so that means that we won't be seeing any points for the drivers who retired in the early stages. Incidentally, that is none of them, since Julian Janowski, who was in the pits, is now back on track, although a lap down. Also a lap down is Andy Maxwell after the opening instance, and that means we may start to get lap traffic getting involved in these fights at various points in the race. Hopefully it all remains clean, but whatever the case, we've seen it going wrong in the past. Still, the trains of cars continue to fight, and with this short circuit, only 53 seconds long, as I said, and with 28 cars on track, that means that effectively you get a car once every half a second on average.
That you do, and that's going to be very, very telling, as again, Nico Foggy gets a big run coming down the downhill, and this is a defensive line now from Johnny Brandon, trying to hold his teammate behind, as again, the outside tries for Foggy, nothing doing. Can he get a big run here through turn 2 to open up turn 3? No, he can't. So again, another chance goes for begging, but turn 1, you've got to get to that inside, as here now is Dan Blake trying to fight this one with Lane O'Connor. What has happened to Carl Jacquelet all of a sudden? He's dropped all the way back to 14th position. Big position gains lost, and it was contact with Lane O'Connor on the downhill through the final corner. They got into the corner, and Lane just on that left right hand doesn't give room for Jacquelet, who did hit the wall on the outside and now has to limp this one home against the likes of James Leggett damage limitation now for Carl Jacqueline, and McNally will secretly have a smile.
And oh wait, no, nothing's happened at the leaders. I just hadn't seen Brandon yet. Foggy taking a look to the right-hand side. You'll notice that the first half of this race was all about working together for these two drivers and building a gap at the front of the field, not attacking each other. But now they have a 6-second advantage over Chris Danes in third place. They can afford to have a bit of a fight so long as they don't come together. Was it these two who came together twice in the late stages of the Monza race? I think it was. They need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But whatever the case, despite the fact they were working together in the early stages of the race, neither of them will want to concede the victory now, especially since they're fighting for championship positions. Won't matter too much heading into the 9. So again, their priority will be to make sure they don't come together. Secondly, they'll want the bragging rights of winning.
Well, where do you go, Nicole Foggy? Not close enough to make a lunge into the opening corners, but he runs the wide line here, trying to open this second half of the corner up, maybe for a lunge at the left-hander. It's bold, it's brave, but he's not close enough. Most drivers take that inside line because it's ever so slightly quicker as you diamond off the entry and get as big an exit as you possibly can. No dice through the next section of track. Steve Lavallee fighting for a podium. Chris Danes has been very strong at staying in third. Got there on the opening lap, hasn't looked back since, and nothing quite there at the moment says everything is all right in terms of can you make that move. Nobody has shown an inkling of what they've got. Again, Nicole Foggy down the hill. Can he pick up that run? And again, it's about a car length going through. You need to be rubbing the back bumper if you want to make a move on the downhill into turn 1.
It doesn't tend to work, it really doesn't. You need to be right alongside your opponent, and on the right-hand side is preferable. Foggy's on the left. His left, that is. And there's no real opportunity for a cutback there since you've got a large curb and then some grass on the inside, and it's a long corner. Of course, the majority of the corners on this track are right-handers as well, so you don't get much opportunity for staying on the outside of your opponent and then having that turn into the inside. You can sometimes do that on the exit of Big Bend, but if you've got that kind of a run on someone, you tend to have the move already done by the exit. So whatever the case, Foggy not quite pulling it off just yet, and still having to sit behind Johnny Brandon in the late stages of this race.
Something has happened, and it has happened for big points positions. It's happened for third because it's been a coming together, Steve Lavallee and Chris Danes. So Danes was defending the inside line. Lavallee went for a gap that did not exist on the pit entry, and both of them went spread eagle into the turf. Warmingham now gets himself up into the podium. Crucially, fourth position now is being held by Danes. Fifth is Ashley Beard, and sixth is now Steve Lavallee. So a big scare, but they get away with it for the time being. Other battles, and it's a big lunge from John Roberts. He tried to pick a pocket on Dan Blake. That was going to work. This allows Kip Stevens over the back of this battle. Carl Jacqueline and Charles Kellyman, also a big scrap going on with just a handful of laps to go. Two of them as they next cross the line. Nicole Foggy still stuck behind Johnny Brandon.
So we have just a couple of couple of laps left in this race. We're about 13 minutes in out of 15, and still the lead is uncertain. Brandon has it for the time being, and Foggy knows better than to go for a massive lunge on his teammate. That would be pretty suicidal when it comes to racing that closely at Lime Rock Park. And of course they did come together a couple of times at Monza last time, or actually twice at the same corner on the final lap of races, I think it was 2 and 3. But anyway, John Roberts having to defend, Dan Blake having to defend, because Roberts and Stevens are right on his tail. Roberts tried to go for a switchback, but once again you can't really get a switchback maneuver done there. We're now on the penultimate lap of this race, and Stevens going across the grass to try to get alongside Roberts there, and it might work because he's still on the inside in the uphill.
Yeah.
Now that's brave. Ooh, that wasn't going to work because Roberts was going to always have the run, and he got it nicely.
He got it nicely, and there's a mistake from Roberts, and suddenly Kip's got a freebie. Thank you very much. That's what he does nicely here, is the white flag out for Johnny Brandon and Nicole Foggy. The prime place to overtake does not work for Nicole. He's got to start thinking about where he can pick up this move as he makes his way through turn 3 turn 4, sorry. The right-hander now down the no-name straight to turn 5. The uphill. Got to get a run here. Johnny Braddon starting to pick apart yard on yard in terms of advantage all over the jump. And in the grass goes Nicole Foggy. That's how much he's pushing for this. Needs a big west bend, and he doesn't find it. More grass, more instant points being taken away. But the final corner comes for Johnny Brandon, who says, you need to beat me, sunshine, here today. I will take as many points as possible from you to get it up. Johnny Brandon wins, then round 25 of the championship. It will be a 1-2-3 with Rich Warmingham currently in third, Chris Danes in fourth, and Ashley Beard will hold on just for a top 5 over the start-finish line. And looking back, Adam McNally will be very happy with his 8th place finish. Starts where he finishes. No rivals beat him. He extends his 9th place lead with Kip Stevens there. A good 11th place to finish off his racing. Carl Jacquelet could not deal with Charles Kellyman over the line. Charles Kellyman, a great drive to 14th there as he went through, but big in terms of how this happened here, Caitlin.
That was a really close race there, just 0.635 seconds the winning margin. It was even closer in the laps leading up to that, but Foggy pushing slightly too much on the final lap of the race. However, they won by 10.9 seconds over Rich Warmingham in third place. You do say it's an XV Racer 1, 2, 3, although huge gap there. And Chris Danes about 2.3 seconds back from Rich Warmingham in the end as well. But what a race that was between Brandon and Foggy right up until the end, and there was clearly no team orders in the second half of that race. Very close, very exciting.
And rightfully so, in my opinion. Johnny Brandon then, to confirm results of round 25, picks up the win by 0.6 of a second over Nicole Foggy. Rich Warmingham makes it an XV Racer lockout of the podium, a 1-2-3, with Chris Danes picking up the spoils of an incident and getting to 4th place come the end. Ashley Beard gets a top 5 ahead of Steve Lavallee, who came together with Chris Danes. Peter Van Gool getting 7th overall. Adam McNally will be very happy for Excite Energy. The gatekeeper to the 9 gets an 8th place finish, which he can be very happy about. Lane O'Connor, 9th overall for him. Dan Blake rounds the top 10.
11th place went to Kip Stevens after that close fight with John Roberts in the end. So Stevens did end up passing John Roberts due to Roberts' mistake. Scott Malcolm was P13, then it was Charles Kellyman, Carl Jacquelet, David Ayres, James Leggett, Sean Gardner, Adam Hedgecock, and Michael Bingham actually got back up into 20th place on the final lap of the race.
He got past Daniel James in 21st. Martin Sampson gets 22nd. Dean Timms and Lee Deemer 23rd and 24th. If you are chasing down the pack, it was a poor day. No rival of Adam McNally's, finishing inside of the top 14 to challenge Jacquelet the best in 15th. You've got also Dean Timms, Lee Deemer there, as we said, 24th. Carl Hardy gets 25th. Steve Cooley in 26th. A quiet race from 26th to 26th. Drivers a lap down included Andy Maxwell and Julian Janowski. Mikey Key, standing a bit like a Drake song, Kiki, does not take to the start in 29th place overall. Well, what we're going to do, though, at this point in time is we're going to take ourselves over to one spinning wheel. That, of course, determines the reverse grid for the second race of the night. We're going to spin that wheel. Marco Barbanera in charge of that, and we will see what the result is going to be. The grid reverse is 30, which will mean this will be a full reverse grid with less than 30 drivers in this field. So a 30-car reverse grid is going to be huge for how this championship is going to go. That will put Janowski up at the front, and we're going to step aside for one moment here at Forever Sim Racing. We'll be back with the next round of the championship, the second race of the night, after this.
Shadows dancing through the air. Her breath congeals before her eyes. The snow falls inside to the bitter beating of her heart.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the BSR TCR Sunday Cup here on Forever Sim Racing. It's Jake Sperry joined with Caitlin Penny and Marco Barbanera, directing the cameras made by Dougie Beard. We're at Lime Rock Park. This, the second of 3 races that you are seeing tonight. This round number 26 of the championship, and this is the big one, the first reverse grid of the night. 15 minutes worth of racing, 17 laps put on the clock for those 15 minutes worth of time, plus any extensions with cautions that may come out. This is going to be a really big challenge for drivers out there as they look to try and navigate through the field. A big shout out to those who get it done for us. First of all, a massive shout out goes to Forcex Designs, our graphics partners here at this wonderful Forever Sim Racing channel. On top of that, the music you've heard through the intermission was brought to you by Violet Pony. You can catch her brand new album, Queen of Misfits, on Bandcamp and on Spotify as well. Make sure that you check that one out from her and anything else in her full discography that she has. But on top of that as well, let's just remind you that next year we'll be hosting the Venomworks Sports Car Championship, and sign up is open at this point in time to everybody at this stage. So we will, in the next couple of days on our Facebook page, give you details on how to sign up, how to get involved, and make sure that you are racing as part of a fantastic new sim racing league coming up Tuesdays once a month. But we focus on Lime Rock Park first and foremost. A big race for Johnny Brandon, a big race for Adam McNally. But the big issue for McNally is most of his rivals are now, in fact, no, all of his rivals are ahead of him for this next reverse grid, Caitlin.
Yeah, of course. On one hand, that's a good thing because it means he did well in race 1. Although on the other hand, I say second, although I presume you only have 2 hands, unless something went tragically wrong in the womb. It does mean that you're going to have to fight through more cars, and it does mean that potentially you have more incidents to avoid as well, because, and I am sitting on wood as I say this, you do tend to have a little bit more dirty driving when the field is turned on its head, and of course that can affect the people who are behind as well. So it's going to be interesting, and really for the leaders in the championship, it's going to be all about who can remain the cleanest.
Who can remain the cleanest? Who can remain the calmest? What we did see, though, from the opening race was just how difficult it is to overtake here at Lime Rock. There is one main overtaking opportunity. That's into turn number 1. And this isn't the case like this track doesn't suit this style of racing. We've seen things upwards, the likes of the IMSA series, come to Lime Rock Park and really showcase just what this style of racing is all about. This is a tough touring car circuit to make overtakes at. You have to be very brave to get it done.
You do indeed. It's tricky. There's only really one overtaking opportunity, and that's down into turn 1, Big Bend. You need to get on the inside with the slipstream, unless you can get enough of a slipstream to power yourself all the way around the outside. But that's so difficult because the straight is so short, and you need to get an excellent run out of the downhill turn 7, the final corner. To actually make it work. The rest of the track can be an overtaking opportunity, but only if the car in front makes an error or dips a wheel in the grass or goes off or has an incident or whatever. and as a result, it's all about setting yourself up for that final corner and that run up to turn one. And as you say, it is so tricky.
It is really tricky. This is a game of racecraft from drivers today, and those near the front know that they have the best opportunity probably all season to pick up what they want, which is big points, big victories at a track where overtaking becomes very, very difficult. Some drivers did make positions, though, in the opening race. Lane O'Connor jumped 8 places, but not without controversy after contact in the earlier stages of the race, bumping Carl Jacquelet down the order. This is where drivers like Jacquelet need everything that they can get. Every position, every incident, no matter how big, may need to be protested to try and get yourself up into the 9. Every point matters from here on in. Practice expires, though, and we will take you to the starting grid for round 26 of the championship. A championship which every driver knows and understands that this could be the turning point on the evening's proceedings, and this is how they will all stack up. Julian Janowski will be on pole position with Andy Maxwell, the amateur category leader, alongside. Steve Cooley starts from 3rd with Carl Hardy in 4th, Lee Deemer from 5th, and Dean Timms in 6th. Martin Sampson and Daniel James are on row 4. Row 5 sees Michael Bingham and Adam Hedgecock. Sean Gardner goes from 11th, James Leggett in 12th, and it's David Ayers and Carl Jacquelet, Charles Kellyman and Scott Malcolm on row 8. Row 9 we'll see John Roberts and Kip Stevens. Row 10 is Dan Blake and Lane O'Connor with Adam McNally, Peter Van Gool, Steve Lavalley, Ashley Beard, Chris Daines, Rich Warmingham, Nicole Foggy and Johnny Brandon making the 28 that will get themselves up on the starting grid for this race too. Only 1 minute though this time to get yourself up onto the grid, and I'll wait for Carl Hardy to get himself situated on the front of this field. Once he is on the field along with one other driver, that one being Ashley Beard, we will get ourselves ready to go. 3 seconds to go, and I think some drivers are not going to be getting on in time, and one of them is Ashley Beard, which is going to be a big hit. Lights will come on top of the iRacing gantry. Round 26 of the championship is now operational, and let's get ourselves going. Slow start from Cooley, who immediately moves to the right-hand side to let as many people go through as they will fan 2 wide as they go through 3 wide in places in towards turn number 1. Janowski unchallenged by Andy Maxwell as they go through the opening sections. Cars running wide, though, in the background. In fact, there's 2 that are off the circuit, and one of them is Carl Jacquelet here, who will drop behind absolutely everyone in terms of this one, along with Charles Kellyman as well. They immediately get dumped to the back of the field through a mistake of running wide.
Yeah, really bad start for a couple of them. I've also noticed that Ashley Beard is not even starting, so big shame for him. Someone else running off and over the grass. It was a white car. Oh, contact, and Lane O'Connor. Well, he's made it through. It's Peter Van Gool and Adam McNally who have had the incident. Walker's involved in that as well. Chris Daines involved, and that is that's a lot of damage. Johnny Brandon also off to the inside, and someone else off on the outside is Steve Lavalley. So loads and loads of contact, many damaged cars. The caution is out.
The caution is out, and it's a huge accident. It all starts with David Ayers and Chris Daines. Daines gets himself behind one Kip Stevens, and David Ayers here gets the side-by-side. A little bit of netcode between them, but 2 into 1. Ayers trying to close the gap doesn't work. Warmingham gets going through. The track gets blocked. Almost everyone involved, and crucially enough, in all of that, in the big instant, Adam McNally gets involved in the instant. The man gatekeeping 9th. He stays out at the moment on track. But how much damage does he have to his Excite Energy Audi? Because he went up and did an aeroplane spin. And in fact, the vehicle has gone off actually at turn number 1. And that's Michael Bingham, who has gone straight off the circuit and may just have to try and chase his way back through to get to position. And that is what he's going to do. So the caution comes out. This will mean that the race will go longer than 15 minutes. 17 laps still available right now, but respite for those who did not have a good start. Janowski thought he was clear. Ultimately, he is not, as we are under caution.
Yeah, regains his 18th position, does Michael Bingham. He's got a little way to catch up to Dan Blake in front. Dan Blake actually has heavy damage to the front left, so he's been involved in an incident, and I don't expect his car will be driving perfectly. The other driver who went off at the start of the race that I saw was Scott Malcolm. That was in a completely unrelated accident to the incident we saw being caused by Peter Van Gool getting into Chris Danes. Couple of cars now peeling off into the pits. Johnny Brandon is one, Peter Van Gool is the other, so they're going to have repair jobs being done. Brandon gets going, Van Gool stops. They're going to be dropping right down to the back of the order. Of course, Brandon started at the back of the order, and now, of course, he has even less time to go up through the field. It's only a 15-minute race, only 17 laps as a whole, and realistically, that's going to be difficult because we're already on, I think, lap 4 of the race, and he would have wanted 17 laps to get through, not 13.
That's very, very true. The lights are off on top of the iRacing Porsche first safety car. We will go back to green flag running at the end of this lap. Janowski in control, Maxwell second, Lee Deemer in third position, looking to try and close those points down. McNally crucially stayed out, but this is the thing about Adam McNally right now. He finds himself back in 22nd place and needs to gain points quickly. Good news for him is one Carl Jackalette. There's only 2 places in front as now the drivers look to just go through the downhill section. The pace car will dive down onto pit road. Janowski giving a lot of room here, and Maxwell as well also giving a lot of room as the pace car dives in and the green flag comes back out again. We're racing again here at Lime Rock Park, and Janowski massively unchallenged to turn 1. Maxwell was not wise to it. Carl Hardy immediately says, Dean Timms, I'm through on you, as they go into the opening sections. Challenges between all of the XV Racer cars. Nico Foggy is picking big points, and he gets 2 for 1 on his teammates as Dan Blake steals one up as well.
No contact at the back, everyone getting through cleanly.
Oh.
Nicely done. Someone running slight.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
more
there is.
contact. Okay, it has happened. It's Chris Danes and Steve LaValle going off.
It is, and Scott Malcolm gets caught up in it as well. So 3 get themselves turned. LaValle and Danes for the second straight time in a second straight race get themselves together at the worst possible moment at the front. The top 3 in islands on their own. Carl Hardy has the train. Dean Timms, Martin Sampson, Adam Hedgecock. This is a big race for Adam Hedgecock right now. Rivals back in the pack. Had an okay opening race, and he keeps points towards damage limitation towards Janowski at the front. So he moves to the inside here, trying to get past Sampson. Adam Hedgecock could move himself primed for this to go on, not only for the Boost Head challenge, but for his own challenge to get into the 9.
I have to say, though, I don't think anyone was to blame for the LaValle and Danes incident. I think it was net curve more than anything, but whatever the case, they continue on their way, and the race goes into its 5th minute, its 6th minute rather, with Janowski leading from Maxwell and actually getting a little bit away. There's a 1 second gap between the two. Actually, that appears to have come slightly down this time around. And then, oh no, slightly out, sorry. I'm looking at Maxwell and Deemer in second position. What's happened?
It's the middle of the pack. It all concertinaed up. And there was contact again. This was all around Dan James and Sean Gardner. James ran wide. Everyone going together. 2 wide now as Kip Stevens gets the position. Foggy's going to steal one as well. They are side by side in front as Martin Sampson will try and find a way past Dean Timms. And again, nothing but that mid-pack is suddenly feisty. On the brakes they go. Oh, Foggy gets 2 taps as he goes through, both saving it. Good work from Dan James to save it there. They ran into each other, and again, Foggy on that inside now has to go the long way around Dan James at the left-hander at turn 3, and a little bit of leaning there as they go through. Is there going to be a fight on the inside of turn 4? Now he gets the door, and Dan James has to take to the grass.
Contact between the two of them, and it looks to me there as if Dan James is going to lose a lot of places on this lap. He's still dropping down the order, and also on the last lap we saw Dean Timms running over the grass as well. James about to lose a place to is that Charles Kellyman? No, Kellyman's already gone through. It's Peter Van Gool, so he's all the way down in, I think, 22nd position. Someone else running wide just ahead of him and going almost off and over the grass, and we'll see exactly what order. Is that Dean Timms again dropping down the order? No, it's not. It's a similarly liveried car who has cost a lot of time on that last lap. And more contact.
big into the wall goes Peter Van Gool at turn 1. He was in a scrap trying to go through with Steve Cooley and also Michael Bingham. He went for a gap that didn't exist and somehow got away with it. Those two just about able to survive as they go through. Van Gool will stop, but look at the trains that are starting to fight. Dean Timms is fighting with his life on the uphill. Is now going to be one driver into the grass suddenly. Goes Martin Sampson as they go through. Foggy's on the back of all of this, and he's got to be so wary about how he attacks. Do you dare go 3 wide downhill? You dare not, as he waits for the time. Sampson runs wide, and he gets both of them on the exit. That is the masterclass of Nicole Foggy, waiting for the time to strike, and Rich Warmingham now wants to find a way through, as drivers have found ways through, and through is Adam Hedgecock and Carl Hardy, as now Lee Deemer thinks about Annie Maxwell for second place. Meanwhile, look at the mid-pack, it is scrapping.
Meanwhile, we've lost Peter Van Gool on that last lap. He's gone back to the pits. Contact, and around goes. Is that Sampson? It's Sampson who's on the grass.
And Jacqueline.
Sampson losing time.
Jacqueline as well has been caught up in it, and he's been caught with Johnny Brandon, and crucially Adam McNally as well, who gets the head of him. So big 3-car incident, no cause for a caution though. They all fan to the outside of the circuit, but ultimately this racing continues on as Rich Warmingham tries to deal with 2 Boosted cars, those being James Leggett and John Roberts down the hill, as Nicole Foggy tries to find a way through now on Dean Timms. Nowhere to go, gets to the inside, does he? No overspeed. Can't quite get it just yet. We'll try again, though, at this point in time. Has he got the nose down to the inside? Dean Timms has nothing to fight back with. Nicole Foggy picks up another one and moves up into 6th place at the moment. Through all of this, Janowski holds 5 seconds at the front of the field. And wide goes Warmingham. Wide will go James Leggett as well. Did they come together through the opening corner?
They were together on the road through turn 1.
Well, just like that, Caitlin, an incident there, and Leggett was trying to get into the apex for the second half of the corner. Warmingham was not fully full through the first part.
Yeah, definitely. There was contact between the two of them midway through turn 1, and that's a difficult, an interesting place to make contact. You tend to make contact on the very entry or exit, but whatever the case, both of them losing a lot of time. Also, in terms of the Foggy move last lap, we've got Gardner, Roberts, and Timms fighting behind him now, a little way behind him, with Roberts seeming to come with the best of that. He's getting up the inside. Kip Stevens getting involved as well, and I think the Roberts might... Oh, contact between Timms and Stevens. Timms facing backwards. Stevens managed to keep it on the road. Is in danger of losing a place to Dan Blake, and Dean Timms is going to keep dropping down the order. He's got Chris Daines behind him, so he's down to 22nd position.
Well, Kip Stevens had nowhere to go. Dean Timms was sideways through turn 1, and on correction, when he got it gathered up, there was no room at the end, so contact, and around Dean Timms went. Look at Adam Hedgecock, though, here. He's going on to lap 11 here of 17, and the gap is closing between himself and Lee Deemer. That gap was 1.1 seconds the last time they crossed the line. The gap now down to 7/10 overall, and all of a sudden, Andy Maxwell in second could get big points here for his amateur category championship, but more crucially than that, Adam Hedgecock could really gain in terms of his battle for the 9 if he can get past Lee Deemer, who is also fighting for that, currently scored in 3rd position. A big battle, seeing as Adam McNally right now finds himself down in 23rd position. Make that now 22nd, because guess who's around again? It's Dean Timms.
Dean Timms has been having an absolute dog of a race so far, losing control again. I'm just looking back to see if he made contact with anyone, but whatever the case, Foggy in trouble now, fighting with... Oh, he's up to 5th there. Yeah, he's past Carl Hardy.
Yeah, he's got through, and he's got through at a place you don't normally get it, on the exit of the uphill section. So a big move then for Nicole Foggy, but this might be a bridge too far for him the longer that this goes. Drivers using all the track include Dan James, who goes a mile off at the final corner trying to find anything that he can. But now what for Adam Hedgecock, who finds the back of Lee Deemer? The gap 0.3 of a second when they cross the line, and 5 laps to get up to 2nd place for Adam Hedgecock to nullify the damage of Janowski and Deemer, and hope McNally doesn't gain too much. He's up to 21st now. He's got past Martin Sampson, but crucially, he's nowhere near Chris Daines, who is on a charge of his own. Every position vital now. Sean Gardner under pressure here, trying to battle with Kip Stevens. No dice up the hill at uphill as Lee Deemer Diemer still just using the draft of Andy Maxwell to keep one Adam Hedgecock at bay.
Janowski's really flying at this point in the race. He's 6.6 seconds ahead of anyone else. However, behind him we have a three-way battle between Maxwell, Diemer and Hedgecock, who are all separated by less than a second as they cross the line to go for another lap's worth of racing. We're on lap 12 of 17 now. And these three still very, very close. Nicole Foggy catching them hand over fist. He's got the bit between his teeth as he flies through the order. He's up from 27th on the grid to 5th and looking for 4th in all of this as well. And the longer that Diemer and Hedgecock fight, the more chance he's going to get of passing them before the end of the race. I reckon he's going to be right on the tail of them by the end of next lap. Hedgecock getting a much better run through the final corner here, and I expect he might be about to go for Lee Diemer here down towards turn 1. Actually, didn't appear to get as good of a run as I expected him to, but he definitely got closer. Diemer took a defensive line going in, sensed his presence, sensed the possibility of a lunge, even though I think it would have been a bit silly to go for a lunge at that time. Puts his car directly in the middle of the road, and Hedgecock continues to look.
Well, he's got to look, and he might just start thinking about Foggy behind. Use Nicole Foggy as a pick to make the move happen. If he can let Foggy through and then get past Lee Diemer, yes, he may stay in 4th place, but he will put distance on his rival. He's got to think about this up the hill. Foggy, fantastic in terms of this run, but he gets blocked by Hedgecock through this section, who does miss the apex slightly going through, and now Foggy's going to bump him all the way down the hill, try and unsettle him as he gets a big run through the final corner, gives a shot to Lee Diemer now as they go through, and suddenly, let's get the chrome horns out as they make their way towards turn 1 once again. Here is Nicole Foggy down the inside looking for the move, and there's Adam Hedgecock who will be on the outside, and all of a sudden Lee Diemer's got to look behind. He's fighting hard for this podium, but this podium may just be a bridge too far. Looking at where McNally is in comparison, this is what the perspective is to keep in mind. McNally is back in 22nd. He's made a mistake over the course of the last couple of laps, and Adam Hedgecock has lost one position, but Foggy's going to try and go around the outside of the uphill section on Lee Diemer, who is absolutely just being mugged through that section. That is world class by Nicole Foggy as he got that move done, and nothing doing for Adam Hedgecock, who is still stuck and now has lost a position.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you very rarely see someone take that much speed through a corner in comparison to their opponents and run slightly wide an exit but keep it within the lines on the entry. That's beautiful from Nicole Foggy, and he deserves that 3rd position. Now you've got Hedgecock up alongside Diemer, almost being forced over the inside curb, almost onto the grass. No room there. Diemer doing a good job at defense, knowing that he couldn't hold off Foggy for that long, but I tell you what, he's having a great job of holding off Hedgecock for as long as he has done.
He has, and Adam Hedgecock was pinched to the inside with no hope of making the move, and this is big in terms of how this goes. He's got to try and find a way to make those points. Janowski currently is going to get a maximum of 80 after getting next to nothing in the opening race after falling a lap down. Got a big benefit by getting himself good on the reverse grid number, which he had no control over. White flag comes out for the Automech driver from Bulgaria, who leads this field by 8.5 seconds over Andy Maxwell. The top two have remained unchanged, but Maxwell's second is under pressure from Nicole Foggy, who took 9/10 out in the last time by. The gap now just a second between them, so Maxwell has to play the defense card hard, as does Lee Diemer, as Adam Hedgecock finds himself completely stuck. Other battles include Kip Stevens and Rich Warmingham. They are both together at the moment, leading a massive train, which could help for Adam McNally, who's got through on Sampson and almost got through on Gardner, but didn't get it done at turn 1 nor turn 2. For Nicole Foggy, still not quite close enough to Andy Maxwell, as Janowski rounds the final corner and dominates round 26 and picks up a huge momentum boost heading into the final round of round 27 of the regular season. Andy Maxwell will survive to get second ahead of Nicole Foggy. Lee Diemer, a big 4th place, which boosts his chances in terms of the overall and getting into the 9 as the packs come through and everyone looks for a run to the line. Warmingham will survive against Kip Stevens. The likes of Adam McNally, though, could not find a way past Sean Gardner, and that is big in terms of how this championship looks, because McNally now fights on the back foot, Caitlin.
He does. He's only just crossed the line, in fact, and he's down in 21st position, so didn't even get into the top 20 in the end there, with Sean Gardner just about finishing ahead of him. So that's disastrous for Adam McNally, but he was badly involved in the opening carnage, as were a lot of the people who finished around him. Just seen Dean Timms finishing. He had his fair share of bumps and bangs throughout the course of that race. We even had 3 DNFs there: Ashley Beard, Michael Bingham, and Peter Van Gool. Now, none of those 3 actually made the checkered flag in the end. But what a race for Janowski. Very, very well done. And he has gained a lot of points towards his challenge for the 9 here today.
He certainly has. Official classified results as follows. Julian Janowski picks up the win and does so here in 16 minutes and 38 seconds. His winning margin is 8.5 seconds over Andy Maxwell, with Nicole Foggy coming home in 3rd place. Lee Deemer gets 4th, with Adam Hedgecock in 5th. Carl Hardy, a 6th place for him, with John Roberts 7th. Rich Warmingham gets 8th place. 9th for Kip Stevens, and Dan Blake rounds the top 10.
Charles Kellyman P11, followed by Daniel James, then Johnny Brandon, who crossed the line pretty much on the grass at the end there, I noticed. Steve LaValle, who collided with Chris Danes earlier on, through, I think, no fault of his own, definitely not from the angle that I saw. Lane O'Connor was P15, then James Leggett, Chris Danes himself, who had a couple of offs, Steve Cooley, then Scott Malcolm, and Sean Gardner P20.
21st would go to Adam McNally, and it's big points lost in terms of what he needs. He drops at least 30 to Julian Janowski and co, and he needs a big round number 27. Martin Sampson, 22nd. Carl Jacquelet got caught in the wrong places at the wrong time. This might not be the time for Carl Jacquelet to book his place inside the 9. David Ayers and Dean Timms, the last finishers on the leading lap. Ashley Beard missed the start, but got 5 laps back under his belt, getting himself inside the 50%. He will still score points. Michael Bingham and Peter Van Gool, they get a big 0 for their efforts, as they do not make it to the end of the race. Well, for the final time tonight, a big 30 minutes coming up for the final race, a double-length feature, as we traditionally have here with the BSR TCR Sunday Cup. Marco Barbanera spins a wheel, and we'll see what the result is going to be as we get ourselves ready for round 27. Well, it's 40, which means it's another full reverse grid with less than 40 drivers. So Van Gool will put himself on the pole position. So respite for Jacquelet, respite for McNally. This is a tough challenge for those at the back. Hedgecock, Deemer, and Janowski have it all to do when it comes to this final 30-minute race. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Shadows dancing through the air. Her breath congeals before her eyes. The snow falls in time to the bitter beating of her heart.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the BSR TCR Sunday Cup here on Forever Sim Racing. Jake Sperry joined alongside by Caitlin Penny and Marco Barbanera. Cameras done by Dougie Beard here at Lime Rock Park, Lakeville, Connecticut. And a massive thanks to those who get it done for us, of course, to Forsex Designs, our graphic sponsors for this broadcast, as well as Violet Pony. You can catch her album Queen of Misfits on Bandcamp and on Spotify, as well as the fact that on our Facebook page, go like if you haven't already, we are going to have ourselves openings for the Venomworks Sports Car Championship. Make sure that you join in if that is going to be of your variety to want to go and race. But Caitlin, we were slow because we were doing maths. Adam McNally holds the position in the 9 by 27 points over both Dima and Hedgecock, who are miles back in the pack for this final race.
It's going to be difficult for him to lose that position, actually, and again, I don't mean to curse anyone, but whatever the case, it's going to be tricky for that to change, especially since everyone who finishes this race scores points, and that does include Adam Hedgecock. So he just needs to make sure that he keeps it clean and finishes the race, whatever happens. But it's looking good for him at this point in time. He will be starting relatively far down the field, although with this being a 30-minute race, pretty much anything can happen in terms of the order. I'm interested in tyre wear because I was just speaking to someone who has driven this circuit with this car, and they were saying that after about 15 minutes, the tyres really start to drop off. And of course, both of the first two races that we've seen have been 15-minute races. So since this is double that, these drivers are really going to have to keep tyre wear in mind, Jake.
They certainly are, sorry, as I catch myself typing and speaking at the same time. And this is going to be tough. 30 minutes on this final race. 34 laps worth of action at Lime Rock Park. Practice is over. The grid, 1 minute to grid up, will be then as follows. Dean Timms will be on the pole position with David Ayers alongside Carl. Jacqueline starts from third, Martin Sampson fourth. Adam McNally, the gatekeeper to the 9, in 5th position. Sean Gardner goes from 6th. Scott Malcolm 7th. Steve Cooley 8th. Chris Daines 9th. And James Leggett rounds the top 10. Following that, row 6, Lane O'Connor and Steve LaValle. Johnny Brandon from 13th. Dan James 14th. Then Charles Kellyman, Dan Blake, Kip Stevens and Rich Warmingham. John Roberts, Carl Hardy. Adam Hedgecock from 21st. Then Lee Deemer. Foggy, Maxwell, Janowski, Beard and Bingham make the 27, going to the final positions. McNally needs a clean start. He cannot afford to get involved in any incident at all. It's about 13 positions back that he has of a margin to the likes of those in front, like Adam Hedgecock, like Lee Deemer. Green flag goes, though, very quickly. And let's get ourselves underway for 34 laps worth of action. Ayers is so slow off the start. Jacqueline immediately takes advantage and gets through. Immediately defending as well from Martin Sampson. They go 3 wide into turn 1. Already there's dramas as they go wide. And there is Ayers struggling, as is Sean Roberts, who just about threads the needle and goes through. More dramas in the middle of the pack as they go through, and some big issues as they go through. Caution in the middle of the pack to get proceedings going.
Yeah, with Sean Gardner there, who was also off. He was running very slowly on the exit of the corner. We do have the caution out. No one properly affected in terms of damage, but we did have cars sliding all over the place with with, of course, Ayres getting involved, with Gardner getting involved. We've still got cars going off and over the grass as I speak. I think Dan Blake just had a trip over the grass behind, despite the fact the caution is out. He's now repassing someone, so obviously a change of places going on. Another blue car trying to make up positions in all of that as well. I say blue, but they'll probably appear a different color to you. But whatever the case, at the end of the first lap of the race, the order has changed slightly due to the couple of seconds of green flag racing that we got. It's Tim's leading across the line, followed by Jacqueline, McNally, Sampson, Malcolm, Daines, Brandon, O'Connor, Kellyman, and Cooley. Those are the top 10 as it stands. And actually, more drivers are affected than I thought. We've got some dropping way down the order. David Ayres, of course, being one, started second. He's now down to 27th. Sean Gardner started 6th. He's now down to 24th. James Leggett, I didn't see Leggett getting involved, although I did see him running slightly through the grass. He's obviously been affected more than I thought as well, because he's already down into the 26th position in all of that as well. So a couple of big changes in the order, and the biggest winner that I see is probably Charles Kellyman, who's jumped from 15th to 9th.
Yep, and that's a big 6 positions gain. Nicole Foggy has gained 10 places then in the opening stages, so he's one of the big gainers. Adam Hedgecock, this is big for him. He needs a big run, and he's got it. He's up 9, up into 12th place, so he really profited off of the start, as drivers will now consider what they need to do over this. A lot of checking up will happen now as they look to try and get what they can in terms of saving tyres, saving fuel. Janowski up 8 into 17th place as well. Lee Dima did not get the good start he was looking for. He went nowhere in 20 seconds. So Adam Hedgecock right now brings the gap in terms of places to McNally down to 10 positions negative for him. He's got to get up past McNally and hope McNally runs into trouble. If he can get up to 3rd, that's going to be huge for the way this race is run. McNally is traditionally bad when it comes to cold tyres, and of course, safety car conditions mean that the tyres will go ice.
Now, of course, this effectively means that we get a rolling start. Some of the drivers maybe with slight damage, although it's effectively going to be the same as before, but with a rolling start, which theoretically should be safer, especially since it's not going to be a 2x2 rolling start like you get in some series. And well, we did have a little bit of a messy start first time out. I don't think anyone's going to have properly serious damage. So this for them is going to be very much just a second try. Do it cleaner. Gain more than you would otherwise have done. Lose less than you would otherwise have done, and just make sure that you keep it nicely under control. Looking back at the replay, I think Foggy actually. I know he gained some places, but one of the XVR teammates also got affected badly. But we are now going green. The safety car pulls off, and it's going to be Dean Timms leading us away.
Oh, and immediately aggressive then goes Adam McNally side by side with Carl Jacqueline. He did not want to come and mess about. He waited side by side. He did not get by on the start-finish line by 100th of a second. That's crucial to keep in mind as they go through. Tim's unchallenged, but immediately here's Chris Daines down the inside of McNally, and no contact between them. McNally with the inside now at the left-hander, turn number 3, and can he get going? More door rubbing, 1, 2 panels of touch, and Daines has to stay behind with drivers behind like Johnny Brandon immediately making contact. Oh, Adam McNally just about survives there on the left-hand side. He's living dangerously. It's the Toonside boy. He drops the place.
That was very, very close. I'm amazed that everyone managed to get... Oh, never mind. I may have spoken too soon. They're still side by side. McNally and Daines running wide and up ahead of them as well. Jacqueline ran slightly through the grass. Now we've got, that's not Sampson, that's got, not even Scott Malcolm, but Daines getting back involved again. It's Johnny Brandon who's gained that number of places. I was surprised because I didn't think he was going to be anywhere near them just yet. But Johnny Brandon from 13th on the grid is already up into 4th position as drivers behind him squabble. I've seen Kip Stevens gaining a couple of places on that last lap, as well as Lane O'Connor, who's made a good start. Adam Hedgecock getting involved. He's made up a couple of places up into 13th position. Nicole Foggy continuing his charge up into 11th. And a little bit of smoke flying as someone touched the grass but got through cleanly.
Got through cleanly indeed. Front two have broken away. Dean Timms and Carl Jackalette for year one. BritTech Simsport leading though this one with Dean Timms. Jackalette can only do the best that he can, which would be position number one in the field. He has no other alternatives. Johnny Brandon up to third as Adam McNally has dropped backwards into fifth place. And he has done so as he had a mistake sliding through the left-hander, almost got collected by Johnny Brandon, just about saved it. His race could have been over just there, and McNally living twice dangerously on the sword. Little gap back to Lane O'Connor though, like some Martin Sampson there, Scott Malcolm, Charles Kellyman, Nico Foggy finds a way through on Kip Stevens, and soon Adam Hedgecock wants to find a way through as well. Around the outside of turn 3 is Brave. Kip's going to fight every stage of the way against Adam Hedgecock, and just like that, Hedgecock has found kryptonite. He needs positions and fast.
Really big chain of cars all the way down the order. The leaders are close. Jackalette getting a better exit, much better exit, because Timms has dipped a wheel into the grass, but there's no room on the inside of that corner because Dean went defensive. This is going to allow Johnny Brandon, our race 1 victor, right onto the tail of them, and if Brandon can get past him quickly, he is going to be in a wonderful position for the rest of the race. Behind them, Danes and McNally going side by side with McNally on his inside, his right hand side, and Jackalette going for the lead around the outside. That looks like it's going to be wonderfully done, unless Dean Timms can keep on the inside.
No.
And into Johnny Brandon goes Dean Timms. They both just about managed to get away with it. Timms drops to third. Jackalette leads Brandon up to second.
How do they live? And now McNally goes on the offensive here on Dean Timms. Is that wise when you've got 27 points to play with here to rivals behind and in front of you? On the brakes he goes, nothing doing as he goes up the hill, trying to find the magical place. Dean Timms fighting every stage of the way, trying to help Chris Dean. Bang, they come together again. And Dean Timms trying everything. There in the grass is going to be Chris Danes. And now Adam McNally up into third. Danes gets what he wants down the inside. Dean's got to let him go as teammates, as Danes is the faster of the two. Now all of a sudden, there's Lane O'Connor, and there's Martin Sampson and Nicole Foggy as well as they battle for the lead. Johnny Brandon down the inside of Carl Jackalette takes the lead, and big point away from Nicole Foggy. Needs as many bonus points as possible, gets 4 more if things stay like this. Lane O'Connor now trying around the outside of Dean Timms. Timms holds him off.
Tim's just about holding him off. It's very close, and he's got that entire chain of cars. That's probably about 15 places involved in that, and I'm sure that if there's a slight mistake from any of these drivers near the front, it's going to cause a chain reaction, a bit of a motorway traffic jam style thing. We've now got O'Connor up the inside, makes it stick. Timms is going to run wide. That's going to hamper the rest of the train on the exit. Foggy alongside him and pops through on the downhill. Dean Timms lucky not to be forced off into the grass there. I think Foggy almost had reason to. But anyways, we head up towards turn 1. Now Martin Sampson is the next person who looks if he's going to attack Timms, and there's contact.
There is, and it's Kip Stevens who has been shuffled out of the way. More contact as he goes through. He almost got a double dose as he manages to finally get the car going straight as he finds a way through. It was initially with Adam Hedgecock, who was trying to desperately gain positions out on track. Danes closing down McNally for third position. Most of our focus for this race is going to be on who makes it into the 9. McNally currently finds himself in the position to move himself into post-game. Sean Gardner struggling up the hill. He'll allow Lee Deemer up a position and gain a little bit more. Good for Deemer, but he's completely out of contention at this point in time. Hedgecock through on Steve LaValle, but now all of a sudden in front of him, Martin Sampson trying to find a way through on Dean Timms. Important scrap this one here as they go down into turn number 1 and just pinched on that inside. Sampson's got to be careful, has to leave the room, does Timms, and suddenly take an inch, I'll take a mile. There goes through Martin Sampson.
Sampson through on one of his strongest performances that I've seen to date. Didn't even have a particularly strong performance in race 1. Had a bit of an off towards the middle part of the race, I seem to remember. But now he's worked his way past Dean Timms. He's up into 7th position. Timms getting a little bit squirrely. I've noticed that Timms doesn't tend to be very strong on the entry to corners, which thus sets him up poorly for the exits as well. Tends to be sliding a lot. under brakes, and that's not going to be good for his tires
Ooh.
either. Now he's got Scott Malcolm coming through.
No,
There's
no.
contact between the two of them. Malcolm runs off and over the grass, and they're almost 4 wide there on the exit of. They were very temporarily 4 wide on the exit. Malcolm loses a lot
No!
of pace. Now the whole bundle of cars is going to come together into turn 1, I think.
That was Timms going so deep on the brakes. He gets a tap and the boost head cars come together. They save it. Timms in the grass. Samson looking to the outside now. I was so worried for Adam Hedgecock there in terms of his challenge. It could have been over just then, but Dean Timms gets ceremoniously pushed to the back. And there's
Dan
more
Blake's
issues.
around. No, he isn't. That's someone else. There was definitely contact in the background. A couple of cars going skating. It wasn't Dan Blake, sorry, but definitely a couple of cars pointing backwards. And I have a feeling, oh yeah, one of them was James Leggett, and he made contact with David Ayres. So contact between the two of them. There was another driver involved, and I think it was Andy Maxwell.
Oh,
So
look at
those were
this.
the 3 that got involved
Here's
there.
McNally. Oh, he thought about it at turn 1. Not got it. Oh, this is
Look at
huge
Danes.
down the inside. Danes is going to go 3 wide. Jackalette gets turned. And they both save it somehow. McNally
the
stays
race.
in third. Danes up into second. And Foggy picks up scraps.
That's got to be move of the race from Chris Danes, passing 2 cars in
McNally.
one corner. Sideways goes, was that Foggy getting
That was
sideways
McNally.
there? McNally getting sideways.
Yeah, it's madness at the moment. Adam McNally goes sideways as he tries to deal with the hyperheated tyres as he goes through. Now Nicole Foggy sees the weakness in McNally, the Toonside boy, in trouble as he tries to go through. We know that he struggles sometimes when it comes to those tyres, but crucially, Danes through into second. Johnny Brandon leads, but now Nicole Foggy has got to find a way through. He'll probably be the cleanest passer in this field, knowing how aggressive drivers have had to be. Will McNally defend this one and save with everything that he's got? He only needs to be ahead. That's all he's got to be. And suddenly down the inside, this is going to be an easy overtake, is it? Yes, it is. McNally gets through, but he's going to give a bump back here on the brakes to Nicole Foggy almost as he goes through the left-hander. Just like that, Foggy's got his podium.
Foggy up into the podium again. This is looking very, very strong for X3 Racer, and we could have said that about pretty much any of the races this season. But so far, we've had Johnny Brandon winning race 1 and looking on course for a race 3 victory as well. I know it's early in the race, but he's already got a 3.1 second advantage, and Foggy is on course for a triple podium. So he was on the podium in race 2 as well, and now he's back up into 3rd position as it stands, and only Chris Danes separates him from rounding off another XV Racer 1-2, but whatever the case, they continue on their way through Big Bend again, and in the background we've got Carl Jackalette under attack from Lane O'Connor. O'Connor is pushing. Jackalette doing well to hold him off for the time being. He's one of the drivers who started near the front of the pack. O'Connor's had to fight through a little bit more from 11th place on the grid, and that is the scrap that everyone is looking at this point in time, and that's for 4th position.
It is, well it was. It's now for 5th position at the moment. Jackalette and Lane O'Connor. Here behind them, Steve LaValle trying to find a way past Martin Sampson. 7th and 8th on the road. Currently nothing doing. Look to the inside, doesn't warrant anything then. Trying to get in the mirrors is Steve LaValle a little bit as he makes his way down the hill, looking towards turn 7, and now setting up an opportunity at turn 1 once again. Can he get the run that he wants? Yes, he can. And this is the way you go out there and attack, and LaValle knows it as he looks to try and push a way through on the inside. Can he get the move sorted and slowed up? There's a lot of room given by Sampson there, and that is a position gain for Steve LaValle.
Indeed, LaValle through, and that is 7th position as it stands. Sampson having one of his strongest races that we've seen from him so far. Started 4th, he's still only 8th position. It's easy for the drivers near the front to drop back, especially when you have a reverse grid, although he is holding strong at present, as also is Carl Jackalette, who is doing a great job as at present. And as we head towards the end of another lap, Jackalette's continuing to hold off Lane O'Connor. The gap between the two of them was just 0.3 of a second last time around, and it looks to be about the same this time as well. So that it's pretty much exactly the same. LaValle and Simpson confirmed to have swapped on the last lap. They've got Rich Warmingham right on their tail in all of this as well. also in that scrap for 7th position. And further back, we've got Malcolm, side by side with Kip Stevens. And Matt Stevens passing him actually for 12th position. So Stevens gets through in the 55 car. And his next target is going to be Charles Kellyman, just a couple of places, about just second up the road. And with all the cars that he is soon to fight, it seems, that is going to close up.
It is going to close up as Jacqueline pushes hard through West Bend. Lap 16 of the race. We are over half distance. We're not going to get there on laps, but we are going to get there in terms of time. And that's going to be crucial. It is 30 minutes on the clock because of that caution that came out, which is going to be big. And looking at this, Nicole Foggy has just caught the back of Chris Danes in the battle for second position. Danes has found himself in trouble with third place once already today, and now he finds himself in a scrap for a podium once more. And what's going to be more impressive about Nicole Foggy is the fact that he will have 3 podiums if things stay like this here, Caitlin, without a race victory.
3 podiums without a race victory. That's very true. I always say that consistency matters more than outright pace, and I know that's a bit of a cliche, but I really do mean that in this series. The top 3 positions aren't really separated by much. Only 5 points separates first and second in terms of the points you get given at the end of the races, and that's actually not much in itself, because that's the difference between first and fourth in qualifying. Anyway, now Jacqueline on the back of Adam McNally and looks to be getting through into turn 1, and these two swapped relatively recently. Jacqueline right back up the inside of him again, so McNally losing time there. I reckon he must have run out onto the grass out of the final corner. Jacqueline back up into 4th position.
That was all last lap, where McNally just ran slightly wide through the opening couple of corners, and that just gave the opportunity to Jacqueline to get the move. All of a sudden, there's 2 XV Racer cars. Lane O'Connor has been involved with the incident before, and it was with Jacqueline in the opening race of the night. Round 27, all of a sudden, here for Adam McNally. He's got to be careful. He almost gets Armco there on the exit, the street-style turn 5. Always going to be difficult at uphill, and Lane O'Connor now has a chance, and he's made a move down the hill that didn't work. He's going to wait for turn 1 this time. McNally needs heads-up driving from here. He knows if he's going to lose positions, he's just got to drive with his head up and make sure he is staying out of contact.
So here comes Foggy. Foggy going for 3rd.
Nope.
Not for 2nd, sorry. He's on the back of Chris Danes. He's been catching him for a couple of laps. And Danes is not an easy person to pass. Of course, Danes got past Foggy earlier after going 3 wide with him and another into Big Bend. Forget KSI versus Logan Paul. This is the fight that everyone wants to see the outcome of. This is the interesting one. Foggy on the back of him, taking a look to the left-hand side, going for a bit of a switchback. Not going to work because Danes slower on the exit, and Foggy has to back out of that one with no room to get alongside him. Now we've got the start-finish straight coming up. This is one of the only proper overtaking opportunities that I can see on the lap, and goes to the left-hand side. Difficult place to do it. Definitely trying. They're still side by side, partway through the corner, rubbing doors. Need to be careful that their hitboxes don't get glued together, which we've seen happening in the past. Dane's sticking ahead for the time being, but Foggy definitely letting him know that he's there and that he wants that position.
Michael Bingham's day is done. He retires the vehicle. He is out of the race. Foggy trying to get second to keep the gap down to Johnny Brandon in terms of bonus championship points for showdown points. He came in with 12 to an advantage, lost a couple in terms of qualifying, and then in race 1 he lost a little bit more. Race 2 he managed to gather up 1 point back, but then it's this 3rd race which is coming in, which he will lose at least 2 more as things stay like this. 4.5 seconds back. Great run, though, for Steve LaValle, as now he looks to get down the inside of Adam McNally, who only just has to let him through. He's got to think championship now, got to think about the 9, as down the inside he goes. He will fight this one around the outside, but nowhere to go, just about stays on the island. And there going through is Steve LaValle up into 2nd. Side by side, though, for 2nd, though. And Nicole Foggy's got it done around the outside of turn 4. Absolutely world-class. Contact through 1, through 2, and then through 3 and 4. That was brilliant effort, and Nicole Foggy gets his 2nd.
Foggy gets his second indeed, and it's just like it was in race 1, with Brandon first and Foggy second. Dane's currently in third place. He was running third for a long time in turn 1 in race 1, sorry, before ending up behind Rich Warmingham, who took it on that occasion. But it looks very much to be like the early stages of race 1 at least, but without Brandon and Foggy being glued together as they were, which will be a bit of a relief for the XV Racer team. That is, so long as Foggy can start to really stretch his legs and get away from Danes, make sure that he conserves his tyres as well. Tyre wear, as we said before the race, is going to be a factor. And as they keep that in mind, we now have a four-way fight for fourth position.
And Carl Jacquelet has to back the pack up. He's got to force McNally into an accident, and the only way he can is by making sure Lane O'Connor gets in on the action. This is where you've got to be so clever if you're Steve Lavallee. He's not thinking about that, and Jacquelet pinches him to the outside, forces McNally now to think about how he attacks with Lane O'Connor just behind. Every position now matters for Carl Jacquelet, and he's got to get an extra 5 positions on the likes of Adam Hedgecock. Immediately defensive, all the way to the pit wall. He goes, and he will have to force around the outside Steve Lavallee, and he's got to defend hard here on lap 23. Outside line coming. O'Connor goes in deep as well as they go through, and McNally just about gets the room. Lavallee fighting this one on the outside, turns to the inside at turn number 3, and Jacquelet's got to keep him there, got to keep the inside at turn 4, and he does so as well. But you can run the outside line, panel to panel, as they go through. Carl Jacquelet trying to stay on this. Lane O'Connor suddenly looks for a move, and McNally has to hit the brakes on the uphill.
McNally having to back out of it, and he's going to lose another place to Lane O'Connor in that as well. Not quite. I thought he was going to, but O'Connor certainly didn't have as much power, as much grunt as I thought he would over the crest of the hill. He's going for it again on the exit, but it looks to me as if McNally is going to have the power to stay ahead, providing the slipstream isn't too significant for Lane O'Connor. Here we go, down towards turn 1. O'Connor on the right-hand side. That's where he wants to be, actually. I'm surprised McNally didn't cover it off. He tries to cover it off too late and ends up being forced wide, and that was just a little bit better planning there from O'Connor than from McNally, and O'Connor gets that 6th position.
And guess what? Nicole Foggy has not broken away from Chris Danes. He's stayed there all the time in that battle for 2nd position with just a handful of minutes to go here in this race, being dominated by Johnny Brandon at the front of the field. McNally does enough to keep himself in position, but all of a sudden, a new challenger approaches for him. It's Rich Warmingham. At the moment, Carl Jacquelet being in 5th position is not going to score him enough points. 61 points is not enough compared to the 57 at the moment, which will be given to Adam McNally. As things stand like this, McNally will go through to be in the 9. There needs to be an accident for McNally, for Jacquelet, or anybody else to gain, and it's worth noting the difference between Jacquelet and Hedgecock, because Jacquelet there in 5th position right now finds himself with 61 points. 11th position is only 49 for one Mr. Adam Hedgecock. And in terms of the gap, in terms of points between them, that is the big telling one. Adam Hedgecock has a 12-point advantage. Hedgecock would be ahead by a solitary point.
Goodness me, that's close. That really is close. And this late in the series, this late in the running as well, it's all getting very, very desperate for that fight. And Hedgecock currently is sandwiched in between Sampson and Stevens, and he's got a whole chain of cars on his tail as well. Malcolm Janowski and well, that's the lot there. But anyway, here they come down the straight, and that looks to be a chance for Janowski going for Malcolm on the right-hand side. Our race 2 winner, making his way through the pack up into 12th position as it stands. Robert. Oh, wow.
Wow, McNally trying to fight off Rich Warmingham. He doesn't have to fight. The point is still his, but he tries to go for it at turn 4. You don't go there when there's no door open, Adam. How many times do we have to tell you? And then all on the grass, Adam Hedgecock now fighting with Kip Stevens, wanting the position. And Stevens is having none of it now as one Martin Sampson gets under pressure. McNally is only going one direction. That is backwards, but time now. Old Father Time, the big helper now for McNally. There's just 5 minutes to go.
Here comes Stevens alongside Janowski. I think he went for Hedgecock, but just didn't have the run. And now I think Janowski might get him here unless he can stick on that inside down towards turn 1. I think he'll just about be able to. And now Malcolm fancies himself getting involved as well. That would be very, very risky. The only person who can make it 3 wide in turn 1 and get away with it is Chris Danes. But anyway, they all make it through. And that is a position for well, Janowski's still ahead of Stevens as it stands. In fact, they've all come through in the same order. I'm quite surprised by that. I was sure that there were going to be some changes in that fight, but everything relatively stable. Okay, it's not stable in the slightest. Hedgecock in the middle of the road on the exit of the corner. Janowski backing out of it. Kip Stevens getting the run and also having to back out of it as well. And Janowski now fancied a look on the inside, realised there wasn't a gap there, and is going to have to go over the grass on the exit of the final corner. Almost hits Stevens as he comes back onto the road and loses out.
Well, look at this. Stevens is going to go 2 for 1, is he? Is he going to go shopping? Well, they're going to go 2 into 1 into this corner. How have they found a gap? Hedgecock gets a tap, gets a bump now through the corner, and there's 2 positions gone. And Adam Hedgecock gives his championship second place, now 10th, over to Janowski with that one move, dropping 2 places, giving Janowski the 1, and now Janowski now needs everything to fall in hands. Lane O'Connor attacking Carl Jackalette now, this one for 5th place, and it's all of a sudden looking like it's a little too little, a little too late with McNally on an island at the moment. Nobody challenging. Johnny Brandon knows he's only got a handful of laps to go. Nobody can catch him. It's on for 3rd, it's on for 5th, it's on for pretty much everything else as well. Janowski and Stevens now going at it.
Janowski and Stevens, look at this on the exit, but also we've got Malcolm alongside. Oh wow, we're almost going 3 wide into turn 1. Oh no, that was never going to work. Janowski gets a wallop, Hedgecock goes sideways, Malcolm gets off the best in all of that. Janowski gets off by far the worst, drops well down the order, and that's not going to help him whatsoever because he's now got another car coming up his inside. That's actually Beard getting involved. But whatever the case, yeah, 3 wide into turn 1 was never going to work, and I'm not surprised he got a clout there. I think anyone would have done in that situation.
Oh, and Scott Malcolm immediately looking aggressive, trying to gain points in the amateur category championship. His rival is not on track, I do believe. Yes, he is. He's 2 laps down in 26. So Scott Malcolm trying to gain points in the amateur category championship. His own fight. He will not care about anybody else. Crucially enough, though, 3 laps to go at the line, and every battle still pretty much on at the moment. But we focus on this one a little lower down the order because now John Roberts and Charles Kellyman wanted on this one. I wonder how much damage Adam Hedgecock has. Scott Malcolm out, breaks himself. He'll go straight on. Careful on the rejoin. Everyone, no, doesn't get it right. Round you go. And that is going to be in the fence. Dan Blake, an innocent bystander.
Yeah, of course, they were just unlucky that they were going side by side there, Blake and Janowski, because when Malcolm rejoined, I'm not sure he realised quite where they were and just came together. But yeah, I don't really think that was Dan Blake's fault whatsoever. I think if you had to apportion blame onto anyone, it would have to be Malcolm because he was rejoining, but he was also unlucky. The 2 cars came through side by side there. You have to allow for things like that. Whatever the case, a couple of drivers affected. Anyway, across the line, once again, Jackalette and O'Connor are still as close as they've ever been. I've been keeping half an eye on that fight, and also Danes isn't allowing Foggy to get away either. We're on the penultimate lap of the race. I think either of those fights could change,
yes,
as well as the long chain that's still fighting over that 11th position. It's really still all to play for in these late stages.
It is, and Adam McNally's under pressure now because Martin Sampson wants a way through, and this is the last test that McNally has if he wants to book himself into the 9. Jackalette will try everything to defend his position. White flag comes out with a lap to go for Johnny Brandon. It's wide, went McNally there with Sampson. This is big. Will he let Sampson have it? For the moment, yes, but he's going to try and come up and under. McNally says that his best defense is going aggressive as he tries to go through. Bit of contact there as they go through the final corner. And now McNally has that inside line. How hard will Martin Sampson fight this one as they go through? McNally cannot afford any incidents here on the final lap in this battle for 8th and 9th place as they go on on through into the corner. Sampson just giving enough room. McNally gets himself back into 8th place the way that he wants to. But Johnny Brandon is tonight's Scarlet. 2 big victories as he comes downhill into the final corner and says to absolutely everyone, this championship is not a Nicole Foggy stamp. I will slow this right down and see you come across the line and pick up the win. Johnny Brandon beats Nicole Foggy once again, gains the well-deserved podium after race 1, and crucially, Adam McNally will make his way through the penultimate corner and one final corner which rubber stamps his place into the 9 in 9th position. That is how Adam McNally gets himself in as everyone tried their level best. Stevens out of fuel over the line.
Was Brandon out of fuel there, or was he just showing off by slowing down like that? Because he lost 4 seconds on that last lap to Brandon to Foggy there.
I assume it's a full finish there between 2 teammates who have a lot of respect for each other, the way they race, the way they've battled. Johnny Brandon has fought very hard on the back foot as Nicole Foggy picks up overall classification victory in the regular season. His championship is not his yet, though. He's got to go through the showdown, but these are classified results. So it is going to be Johnny Brandon, who just missed pit exit, by the way, and will have to go another lap round. He finds himself with a big win. Nicole Foggy, 2nd position. Chris Daines fought hard, but has to settle for 3rd overall. Steve Lavallee picks up 4th with Carl Jacquelet in 5th. A good effort there in that final race, but not quite enough. Lane O'Connor gets 6th ahead of Rich Warmingham in 7th, and Adam McNally booking his place inside the 9, finishing this one in 8th place overall. Martin Sampson had to fight hard in 9th. The top 10 rounded out by the gentleman, John Roberts.
Charles Kellyman was P11 at the end of all of that. Kip Stevens, P12, only just off the tail of him. Ashley Beard, followed by Daniel James, followed by Carl Hardy, Dean Timms, and then closely following them, Scott Malcolm, who was fighting with them the whole way through and lost out on the final lap of the race. Adam Hedgecock was P18, followed by Dan Blake, and then Steve Cooley was P20.
Lee Deemer's run was quiet at the back. He only gained 1 place, 21st overall for him. Sean Gardner gets 22nd with David Ayers 23rd. Janowski had himself an incident late in the day that dropped him back to 24th and ended his challenge. James Leggett gets 25th. Andy Maxwell 2 laps down. A big blow for his amateur championship lead. Michael Bingham failing to make it over to the start-finish line. And with that all sorted, your 9 are secured here at Lime Rock Park for the final 3 meetings of the championship. And of course, they are Nicole Foggy, Johnny Brandon, Dan Brown, got Cedric Nebelshek, Robin Haase, Ash Beard in there, Chris Daines, Kip Stevens, and on top of that as well, Adam McNally makes his way into the 9 as well. Caitlin, final thoughts as we wrap up the regular season and we hit showdown territory as we go to Zandvoort in a week's time.
Zandvoort is going to be fascinating. It really is. It's a tight and twisty circuit with not many opportunities for overtakes. Very much like today. And if it's anything like today, it's going to be absolutely fascinating and definitely unmissable. In terms of today, Johnny Brandon, of course, picking up 2 victories with Nicole Foggy, 3 podiums. I think either of those have a claim to driver of the day. Personally, I tend to go for consistency over flat-out results, and as a result, I would probably go for Nicole Foggy, who I think maintains the championship lead in all of this as well. But there are a bunch of other drivers who really impressed me today in all of this as well. Rich Warmingham quicker than we've seen him before. Martin Sampson quicker than we've seen him before. And a good result there in the end from Carl Jacquelet as well in race 3, as well as everyone else who finished on the podiums. Julian Janowski, wonderful race 2 victory, and congratulations to who booked their place in the 9? Sorry, I have completely forgotten the name.
It's Adam McNally.
Adam McNally. My apologies. Yeah, no, sorry, it just completely escaped me at the end there. But whatever the case, yeah, congratulations to him. Great day of racing, very, very exciting, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the BSR season.
The showdown happens in 1 week's time, the first of 3 final meetings will be at Zandvoort 1 week's time. Forever Sim Racing. Book your place and make sure that you watch us. Like, share and subscribe here on YouTube as well as on Facebook as well for more great sim racing content. A massive thanks though to those who get it done for us. Firstly, of course, it has to go to 4Sex Designs, graphic sponsors here of this at Forever Sim Racing. On top of that, Violet, her music, you can catch her new album Queen of Misfits on Bandcamp and on Spotify as well. Make sure that you check that out as well. But as well as Dougie Beer's cameras and Marco Barbanera directing them, you've got, of course, Caitlin Penny, who has been here on my left-hand side, and I, of course, am Jake Sperry. The 9 are booked. It's time to see who can put their chips down on the table, who says I have the biggest hand, and who has the bravery to shove their chips into the middle. Only 3 rounds can decide it, though, and you can only see it on Forever Sim Racing. Make sure you tune in at Zandvoort in 1 week's time.